Hey everyone, time for another mini lecture. So, have you heard this saying? She looks at the world through rose-colored glasses. Notice I have my rose-colored glasses on. So, usually that saying, it's kind of a negative thing, meaning that somebody's being overly optimistic. But things are certainly looking very rosy right now as I look through these lenses. So I'm making this video to show you an example by analogy of what I mean when I say using different lenses depending on what discipline your course is in. So for this example, I have two different pairs of lenses. One is magenta, this one here is indigo. And you can see that the colors change, the image changes when I look through different lenses. That's normal. Then there's magenta. And the last is indigo. And the same is going on with the next scenes. So what's happening is that the lenses are filtering out different light depending on which color lenses I use. And here's an example. So the principle of this is, for example, if you're using the magenta colored or red colored lenses, they only really let the red light come through. So things look redder, or in this case, more magenta. And you can see in the sunset pictures that all the pink and orange in the sky gets kind of washed out because everything looks pink and orange because those glasses are mostly letting through pink light. So the idea with our academic lenses is to do the same sort of thing. So the academic disciplines use lenses as well, or filters, it's not that they only let in certain details, it's that they place an emphasis on certain details, and they ask different questions depending on the discipline. If you're studying Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, the questions that I might ask as a rhetoric teacher, because this class is about rhetoric. In English, we have both the literary concerns and the rhetorical concerns. This class is teaching you how to read and write in an academic setting, and therefore my concerns for this class are rhetorical concerns. Why does the author use particular words? Why does the author choose a particular event to illustrate something? Why do they choose the examples they choose? What is the effect on you, the reader, that the author chose those particular things? Those are the kind of things rhetorical lenses look at. If you're in a history class, you're going to look at something completely different. If you're in a psychology class and you're reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, questions you might ask might be something like, what is the effect on young women of color to not see themselves represented in a positive manner in media? This, of course, was more of a concern when Maya Angelou was a young girl, but it's still a concern in our media. People of color are still underrepresented in comparison to white folks. So, what I'm hoping you get out of this analogy is the idea that when you're reading, you can put on a particular lens for a particular course in a particular discipline and focus on the things that that discipline wants you to focus on. So you can refine your questions so that they ask about those kind of things. With my rhetorical lenses, why does Maya Angelou use the particular incident that she uses in her introduction to I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings? What is the purpose of her telling that particular incident in the introduction? So that segues into the next part, which is, how do you use these lenses in your writing? So in your writing, one of the things you can do, and I want you to focus particularly on the personal narrative right now, the personal narrative tells a story from your life. For the purpose of this class, though, and for really any class in an academic setting, or any time you're writing in an academic setting, what is the reason for telling the story you're telling? If you're in a history class, it might be to provide a document, a first-person document, a sort of a witness to history. For example, if you were to write a story about how you feel about the events leading up to this election, you might be a witness of history. In my class, however, I'm asking you to think about how does your story show either creative empowerment or this Bildungsroman idea, the idea of the education story, or the two of them combined. So what you can do in your writing is the same thing that Maya Angelou does in her book, in her introduction, and that is to put a frame around your story. So how do you want the viewer to see your story? Do you want them to see the story through the indigo glasses? No glasses? The rosy glasses, right? My indigo glasses are kind of serene and tranquil. My magenta glasses are positive and uplifting. So what is the message I want to give my reader when I'm writing? Think about using the lens as a frame to help guide the reader to the message that you want to give the reader. I'll end on indigo. That concludes our mini lecture for today. I hope it helps.